It is said that baseball is the American pastime. Whether that's still true or not, it's certainly true here in Louisville, where the KET crews came up to get my good friend, perhaps the most successful baseball executive in America, A. Ray Smith, the president and owner of the Louisville Redbirds, who has made all kinds of history with the success of his club. I'm Milton Metz, and I'm your host on Bywords, and we're pleased to have you with us this evening. A. Ray, it used to be said, now even in basketball-conscious territories such as Kentucky and Indiana, that baseball is the #1 pastime of America. True or false?
It is, no question about it. Because the studies from the Commissioner's Office bear that out. There were more people saw baseball last season than any other sport for the first time. Up to last year, it was horse racing. Last year, baseball surpassed it, like 90-some million.
But baseball Louisville style has put Louisville on the map in a way that perhaps only the Kentucky Derby has in the past, that it's a one-of-a-kind. You have broken every record held by minor league baseball and broken it by enormous records.
That is true, Milton. I think many people could have done the same thing because this city was just ready for this type of entertainment. If you go back over the years, you've had, well, first of all, I think all sports franchises should be owned locally. Major, minor, what have you. You had ownership here that didn't do well in Louisville. They took all out, put nothing back. You had 4 people from Cuba own this. They were gambling people. Yeah. You remember that.
Right.
You had a man from Evansville who didn't serve the population well here at all.
It was a little bit
he was
funny
a little bit. Yeah. And you had a local fella who came along, did a good job. No question about that. And then they saw fit for some reason to cancel baseball, his lease. So he was forced out of the business. Then, due to Dan Allman, many people here became realizing all the time that you needed a cultural something or another for family interest, you see,
right.
Which we came at the right time.
But, A. Ray, let me put this to you. You'd be the first to admit that there are other knowledgeable, smart baseball executives. Nowhere in the United States of America has a AAA ball team ever brought 800,000 people into the stands. And then the next year, 1 million. I mean, nobody's even close.
But no one has the facility we have here throughout all AAA baseball. Very few Major League facilities compare with the one we have here now.
Even Major Leagues?
Major Leagues, true. Now,
I mean, here we sit in this is the Stadium Club. Before, it was an empty, concrete-lined,
it was
under
a cavern.
The stands.
It was a dirty cavern when we came here.
Now we have...
It was desolate.
Mahogany paneled walls.
Exactly.
We have vases of flowers. We have upholstered...
Real leather, I'll have you know.
It feels so
and
good,
it
too.
costs the people in this Commonwealth not 1 cent.
The club
That's the
pays
beauty.
for it. All right, now we're in, we can only see part of it, but what shows to our TV audience with this is your furniture, your tables and everything. Is this an exclusive place that we're in now?
It's a private club because we had to. We had a club here last year for season seat holders, and it was pretty much decimated at the end of the season. I mean, there were holes in the carpet, there were holes in the walls, so we had to have something nice. We made it into a private club for the benefit of our season seat holders. Now, on the other end, we have Stadium Club East, which does accommodate we masses, because that's where I go.
Now, right out, we're under the stands at the moment, right? So above us
where the people
are the seats, thousands of seats. This is what would be, as you said, a cavernous concourse.
Yeah.
But as you go down there are street names, there are banners of all colors, there are decorations, there are bands that play music, at least 3 of them. You serve everything from chicken wings to tenderloin sandwiches.
Knockwurst,
now listen,
bratwurst,
but A. Ray, we
chicken bread.
I'm getting, but we haven't even talked about baseball yet. You have this is only the side dressing, right? I mean, baseball is really
baseball
the
is still the big attraction because we are oriented to families. Baseball is the only family sport in this country. How many people can afford to see the Bengals play football? They can't get tickets. How many families can afford to see the University of Kentucky play football? They cannot get tickets. How many can afford to see basketball, U of L or Kentucky? They cannot get tickets. We're affordable here. That's one of the big things.
And you're a pretty good club, too.
We're a good club. There's so little difference between baseball at this level and baseball at the major league level. I cannot tell the difference. I don't believe you could tell the difference.
I don't believe that.
Unfortunately, almost tragically, we suffer from the minus quantity syndrome of a minor league, which started 100 years ago. Now,
You're one step away.
yeah, we're one breath away.
One breath away.
Now, if the University of Kentucky played the Bengals 100 football games, they would lose 100 games. There's no question about it, by the design of the game itself.
Right.
Now, if this baseball club played Cincinnati 100 baseball games, we would win 40%, maybe 50%, because we're pretty good.
Right.
Here.
You made your mark and your fortune in the construction business. You were in Oklahoma and Texas.
Right.
You worked with famous families. You had been successful, so you had nothing to prove. Obviously, you have a love affair with baseball.
I had to prove, and I've told this to Gene Autry many times, he's going to come and visit us. I have done and applied what we think. We're not baseball entrepreneurs. We're not promoters. Heaven forbid. We sell a product. We have the base of 1 million people within, 40 miles from here? We have a facility. We have the support of the business community. We have the support of the body politic. That's important, too. We have the support of governor, mayor, county commissioners, and the support of 1 million people.
But you had to make it attractive for them.
Oh, sure, we gift wrapped it.
Right. I can't believe that you're just a promoter. I believe you probably could do a fairly good stand-up job in the dugout after all these years.
Oh, I do that mainly all the time.
Do you?
Oh, sure, but I never mention that out loud.
You do have, I refer to a love affair with baseball.
Yes. Mhm.
And you have many friends all throughout the sport. You mentioned Gene Autry, of course.
Longtime friend. Baseball is it's almost a happening in this country. It started, as you know, I'm sure, as a social game in New York City called the Knickerbocker, in Manhattan, no less. And it was a social game. It came from the game Rounders in England, not from cricket, Rounders. It was played in the Civil War. There's a 10-type picture where they had 50,000 troops. Lincoln was there. Doubleday, I don't think invented baseball.
Don't think I've heard of Doubleday?
No, but it makes good stories, and a lovely place, Cooperstown, New York, and
Right.
It's worth a trip. If you're ever close to there, I've enjoyed it a couple of times.
How do you like the cast of characters? I happen to know you always have star nights, at least, and you always have visits by fabulous people like Stan Musial and Willie Mays and Mickey Mantle and DiMaggio and all these wonderful people. How do you like them as people?
They're just great. Mr. Milton Metz, and I think baseball is built on legends. There's nothing even close. I'm quoting now John Kilpatrick, the great noted columnist. As a sport, he says there's nothing even close to it. I'm quoting him.
Yes.
But these people are friends, they're great athletes. They're just a nice group. It's a different game than football. It's nonviolent. Takes great skills to play it. And there's more fellowship among baseball than other sports.
How about the individuals? Let's tick off some of the famous people you know. Now, there are very few people who have the stature in America, that they write songs about as what some people believe may be one of the 3 greatest players ever lived, Joe DiMaggio.
Oh, Joe's class.
How would you describe him?
Joe's a classy man. He's a very bright fellow. He's introverted. He's bashful. He cannot speak. He freezes.
Thoughtful man?
He freezes. Very thoughtful. He had the marriage, which created an awful lot of comment, which he's embarrassed to discuss.
Marilyn Monroe.
Marilyn Monroe. And I've heard newspaper people ask him about her, which is not good taste, but they're reporters.
What does he say?
He doesn't say anything.
Not a word.
Nothing. He just refuses to discuss it. I would never mention it to him. I've known the man for, 20 years.
And
But
still,
he comes, we're one of the few places he comes. Right
just
here.
how about Ted Williams?
Ted's different. He's a sportsman. He would not come to a function like we have.
He dances to a different tune.
completely.
How about Stan Musial, the great
Oh,
Stan
super.
the Man?
Super. Stan has more fun than anyone.
Yes.
He signs autographs by the hour. And that's a chore, the way he signs autographs. He said, I'm going to worry when they don't ask me to sign. And he's successful. He's intelligent. He has, as you know, a fine restaurant. He has a fine hotel. He's wealthy.
Seems to be a joyful man.
But he enjoys it all. He told me he has a couple of partners, Hugh Downs and Garagiola, and some interest in there. He says they don't have any fun anymore. That's Stan.
Mickey Mantle.
Mickey Mantle is another class. I've known Mickey since he was 16 years old. He was a bellhop at the main hotel in Miami, Oklahoma. He was raised in the little town of Commerce, Oklahoma. Maybe, just maybe, in 1956 and 7, Mickey Mantle was the greatest baseball player that's ever lived. I don't think there's much question about it. But he had the bad legs and was injured a lot. But when he was young, he could fly. Absolutely fly.
Willie Mays.
Super. But as Satchel Paige, the great Satchel Paige, says, there's no comparison. Mickey was twice as good as Willie because he did it from both sides.
Which is pretty good.
That's pretty good.
What about the flamboyant baseball owner? What about a man like George Steinbrenner? In the headlines more than his stars.
Well, he became involved. You know, the Steinbrenner family in Cleveland,
Right.
Shipbuilders, and I could only assume I've met George Steinbrenner. I don't think he'll be successful here in Louisville. I think, as a matter of fact, he's having trouble in New York City with 10 million people. He's maybe too flamboyant for the baseball fan. Maybe. But we each have our own style.
But now, he has a different type of style of management than almost anybody.
Oh, yes, he's more personally involved.
Yes, he gets right in there. I mean,
He
he's
gets involved.
firing and hiring
And
managers.
I just don't think that I would ever tell our manager to do anything on the baseball field.
What do you tell him? What do you tell Jim Fregosi?
He reports to me. I would never give him advice as a player or as a coach. And now, we do consult on talent.
Right.
We will talk about Erasage, which we acquired, Gene Roof, which we acquired. We agree on all that. And there's never a day we don't talk. But it's never telling him what to do. He's the most intense manager in baseball today, one of the very most. He's there. He never sits down during that game. It's pressure. It's unbelievable pressure that the Billy Martins, the successful managers, go through. Herzog's a great manager.
Yeah, talking about Billy Martin.
He's a pal of mine, a really good pal. Been in my home. Billy is Billy.
But he was with, when he was cavorting around off the field with, who were his buddies, Mickey Mantle and Whitey Ford. They
got him in trouble.
They got a lot of trouble, and there's eventually
And
involved
traded,
in a trade.
and really hurt him, crushed him.
Yeah.
When Stingle traded him to whomever at the time. But he had to break it up.
But he's got a fiery temper.
He had. Quick.
How about, there's a new book out on Casey Stengel. He seems to be a part of the lore of Americana.
He was, I hate to mention these names because Casey, I was close to him because he had some oil production in Oklahoma. And I accumulated his checks.
Oh, really?
And they would come. He'd say, hold on, Tom, and he was...
You were associated in an oil venture with him?
Not directly, but he sent me all of his contracts and his production. And just, unfortunately, tragically, Mrs. Stengel was in the hospital 8 or 9 years, Alzheimer's disease. Right. And she was about 2 miles from the home. And I was out on occasion in the house. Looked like the stadium when I came here about 3 years ago. We had a lovely home in Glendale. So I arranged for him by phone that day, a lady had come from Ohio that moved in and spent the last 6 or 7 years of his life with him. She was secretary, housekeeper, almost public relations, great talent, and he left her,
you were really close
comfortable.
to Stengel.
Oh, yeah, very close.
And he would say, hold the
Very
checks.
close.
Don't send the checks?
No, just hold him there, and which I would, and he'd say, oh, come on out here, R. The only one in the world would call me R.
R?
And I come on out and spend a few days. And he came to Oklahoma always for 3 days and spent 3 weeks. Now, he would wear you out.
Why?
Whew. He was a late stayer. Casey loved to go to talk to people. And he liked to imbibe a little bit, and he liked to stand up and talk at 83, 4, 5 years old. And I was always sort of glad to see Casey go back home because it was a little bit difficult.
Well, would it be funny as a member of a board of directors at the bank? I think he was.
Oh, I've been to those meetings.
Have you?
Casey was an actor. He knew when to act. And he was the best manager that's ever lived, no question about it.
A likable man.
Oh, sure. Lovable man.
But didn't he play?
A genius.
See the one they told a story about A. Ray, who when he was an outfielder, he was standing out in center field, I think, and somebody applauded, and he doffed his cap, and a sparrow flew out of his head.
Well, there's some great ones. He was playing a baseball game somewhere, and there's a storm sewer in the outfield. He was devilish with people, just loved people. A storm sewer in center field, big round, 3-foot diameter, top. So he quietly nudged that aside, and took him 2 or 3 innings to get it aside. He runs out there and goes down the hole. Then he peeks out, and he saw a fly ball coming. He jumps out and catches the ball. So he was the actor, the consummate actor. And he'd have been an actor had he been in the movies, because the man was talented and brilliant. And he had discipline. Ask the player that played for him. He was the boss.
Who do you think is the best living baseball manager?
Well, I don't think there's any one. I think there's 4, 5, or 6. I think Earl Weaver, certainly. Herzog, certainly. The fellow we have here is outstanding. He will be in the major league. Timing, play. Baseball is a peculiar sport. Not unlike boardroom politics, it's cronyism. When a manager gets fired at the major league level, boom, all the coaches get fired. Then here comes a new regime. Here comes a new manager. All the coaches come. That isn't all bad. Baseball has done, I think, an outstanding job of taking care of the players and that sort of thing. Stengel mailed out 10 to 12 checks every month by unfortunate players. No one knows that. Every month. I read the book. The man was not that close to Casey, but he was a good reporter.
Right. And he was a kind man,
yeah,
generous.
Very kind, very generous. He wanted no one to know that.
There's something about you I don't see reflected in other owners or executives. You love to stroll the stands during a game.
Well, sure, because there are fans. They're baseball fans. I'm a baseball fan, and I learned, I get suggestions from these people. They have a cold hot dog. I'm the first to hear about it if I'm walking down there. And it's not planned. It just happened. And I've always done it. There's nothing new.
And people are always reaching out, touching you, talking to you in the stands.
I suppose, yes, and perhaps more here than
anywhere.
Anywhere. I don't know. I don't understand that. Of course, there are people that will tell me, and I'm not bright enough to comprehend it, that this is a cultural phenomenon.
Did you do that in other clubs?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Always.
We have no different. We use our approach here is the same it was in Tulsa. Now, I'm a gypsy because, as Paul Richards was here last night talking, he well remembers when the Tulsa Park fell in, collapsed.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Just after you left it.
We did not want to stay because we felt this would happen.
I mean, literally, it
collapsed. And people were hurt, injured, lawsuit. They paid out more than $5 million. And I announced, in our little press conference, we left with a tear in the eye, that someone will be hurt here, and we're not going to be a part of it. So we went, of all places, we went to the Superdome in New Orleans. It was a disaster financially. But the first game was played with the Texas Rangers and the Houston Astros, an exhibition. It collapsed. And had it been full of people instead of 1,200, it would have been a Holocaust.
Wow.
So I'm a prophet in our own town, you see, because we called that. And due to this little TV interview, nothing ever went to court because I just simply stated someone will be hurt in this facility.
I see. Hey, Ray, let me ask you this, in all frankness, that you broke the all-time minor league attendance records 2 years running, with more people coming than a handful of major league clubs. Were you surprised, amazed?
Yes.
Even you?
Yes. Jack Lake, longtime pal, before I became involved in sports, publisher of the St. Petersburg Times in Florida, a great newspaper, I'm sure you're familiar with. He thinks that is perhaps the best sports story of the decade. the millionth fan here. He was here.
Oh, yes, that wonderful man who did the little cavorted around when you rewarded him for being the 1 millionth fan.
And would you believe he's back in Italy today? He found an old lady friend while he was back. Now he's back to Italy, been back twice since the millionth fan.
That's right. You rewarded. You gave him
Right.
a trip back to Italy.
His home village. He was a war hero. I mean, a prisoner of war when he came here.
In business, were you simultaneously in baseball and the construction
Yes,
business?
yes, for a period of 10 years. But then I've spent little time with baseball. We had a project out of the country, offshore so-called. We worked in Panama, Venezuela, Middle East, St. Lawrence Seaway. I had a monument here in Kentucky, Barclay Dam, lost money.
You lost.
That wasn't nice.
No. Hey, Ray, you had enough experience in life on the sporting field and in a business to allow me to ask you this question. What do you think it takes to be a success in America?
Well, it's a new ball game. I do believe in the past decade. I was fishing some number of years ago with a gentleman from Bloomington, Indiana, called Dr. Wells. I asked him that question.
Wonderful man.
He's an educator, and I've met him several times for dinner when he was in New York. He said he thinks that the university life, for any young person, the 4 years there is just a great association with people. He puts great emphasis on people. I agree with that. I think it takes a combination, whatever stature you're in or come from or heritage or background. We were so poor when I was young, but we were proud, you see. Now, the factors are, let's say, hopefully some education.
All right.
Let's hopefully say you make the right selection in your choice of whatever you want to do or like to do. But luck is a big factor. Right place, right time. People. I know some brilliant people that tragically have never been successful. Professional people. Writers I know have never been quite, I know a few of those. Never been accepted.
Did luck play a part in your success?
Sure. Right place, right time. Right here is strictly luck. Big factor here. Now, you have to add the other ingredients, you see. We work hard here, really. We have a good staff here.
What would you tell young people, Ray, who will not necessarily accumulate a lot of material wealth, but to be successful?
Well, material, it takes more than that. I go back to the old story in Reader's Digest some 20 years ago that printed the 20 of the wealthiest men in the world and named them. All suicides. Well, that's frightening, isn't it? I still have the copy here.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So it takes a balance. I don't know. People, I think, are the most important part of our culture. I get concerned about the billions and billions and billions, and I'm not going to get in politics at all, being spent on destructive equipment to ruin this planet. I think it's a concern. It should be worldwide. Hopefully it will be resolved. I think young people are smarter than we are. Hopefully.
You think the world still looks up to America?
I think so, and I think they well should. All we have to do is go across any border and see the difference, that our government, as bad as it is, that it's made. Go to Mexico. They have more resources than we have. There's no middle class in Mexico. You know, that's
right.
At all. There's wealth, and there's so many poor people. That worries me to see that.
No, we have a great strength of middle class.
Yes,
here.
it happened. I think we're lucky, again. The people that founded this country were...
Are you a repressed baseball player yourself?
No. I know I could have played it had I wanted to. The war came along and I didn't play.
How important is family life with you?
Good, very important. It's there again. Well, I've been concerned. My kids do things that all other kids do. I'm not a real strict disciplinarian. Satchel Paige was. He was a friend of mine.
You admired Page, didn't you?
Yeah, I married him. A brilliant man that people didn't know, Satchel Paige. But I was disturbed when they smoked marijuana. Their mother wasn't. She tried a little herself. I wouldn't. I was disturbed when they told me about the few times they tried Coke. She wasn't, so she's smarter than I am. They're not on dope, but the college kids are curious.
You think our young people are in good shape here?
I'm concerned about this thing because I just read in the Sunday Times a full-page article about cocaine being used in the exclusive private schools in New England, high schools. Now, that's not good. You know that's not good. I just think something has to be done. I don't know what to do.
Times are changing.
Oh, I've seen it in this baseball thing in the last 10 years. Now, that's an area that I don't mind addressing, but I see our players. I have known some young people that cannot cope with $1 million. And who's responsible? The owners. I've begged Autry, let's get some people to help these young people at the lowest level. Family planning, money planning, financial planning. They have not done that. Now, I know 2 or 3 young people that went from poverty to $5 million.
Incredible.
They can't cope with it. I couldn't have coped with it. What would have happened to Milton Metz at 19 years old had someone handed you $5 million? Maybe you could have coped with it.
I'm not sure. I doubt.
I don't think.
I didn't come from
I don't think I could have done it. Now, some of these people, fortunately, have parents that help them. But it's a tragedy, and the owners are at fault in this.
I have a final question for you, A. Ray. During the baseball season, when and where is your happiest moment?
I don't get emotional on winning or losing. I miss perhaps the emotional impact of the millionth fan night. But I was told by numerous fans that people became emotional that night and cried.
Yes.
Now, I was in a field that was happening, and I was, I suppose, in a state of, well, it's busy out there. Yeah. And the millionth fan guy, he jumped. But he danced. He did everything.
But you're happiest down here, I take.
Sure.
In the club.
Yeah, people. I enjoy it. Winning or losing is not that important.
Very good. It's been
pretty important, though.
Yes, sir. A happy man and happy in his job. Thank you, A. Ray, very much.
Thanks for having us here. I enjoyed it.
You're very good. On behalf of Bywords for KET with A. Ray Smith of the Louisville Redbirds, this is Milton Metz. Thank you very much.